श्री परमात्मने नमः। अथ ध्यानम्। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधिता भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितपुराणमुनिनां मध्ये महाभारतम्। अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणी भगवती अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वा अनुसन्धदामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी।
Thank you. We'll start the presentation. I'm just putting the timer. We can start.
Aditi, 35, 36.
Yes. Would Ajit be reciting the verse, Uma? Or if you can recite
no.
the
Asha,
verse?
can you help? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take a shot.
Yeah.
भयद्रणादुपरतं मन्स्यन्ते त्वं महारथा येषां च त्वं बाहुमतो भूत्वा यस्यसि लाघवम्.
Thank you, Asha.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaste, everyone. Hare Krishna. And I consider this as an extremely blessed opportunity for me to explain verses 35 and 36 of the Bhagwat Gita. So far, Krishna has talked about why it is important to fight to uphold Dharma. So now, in this verse, Krishna is talking about the consequences of not fighting. So in this verse, Krishna explains how disgrace will affect Arjuna if he withdraws from the battle. So if Arjuna withdraws from the battle, the reason might not be that, he is fearing fighting the war, but it may be the immense amount of compassion and respect that he has for Dronacharya and Bhishma. So unfortunately, this very intention of Arjuna is not visible and is not known to the world. The society and everybody else will think otherwise, and they might, inflict a lot of rumors on Arjuna. And this is enough fodder for them to generate all kinds of rumors. So although Arjuna's cause is very legitimate, Duryodhana and his accomplices might spread all sorts of rumors. So this is the crux of this whole verse. Let's draw some parallels to reality, right? So in the world of journalism especially, it's all about sensationalizing news. In the quest to mint money in order to, malign a person's image, to tarnish their image, to bring their credibility down, journalists these days twist facts and extort money. So the things they say are, if you don't want us to print a certain news, how much are you going to pay me? So we have seen this happening. So very often, a person who has built his credibility since childhood till now, he might lose his image because a certain journalist might twist facts, right? So sometimes a person feels that their fame can be a curse too. Blackmailing by journalists is very prominent that we see in these days. So in this context, Krishna is saying that, hey Arjuna, since you're so popular, your well-meaning intentions can be misconstrued by your enemies. So all warriors from the Kaurava side might believe otherwise and might think that you withdrew out of fear, right? So the person who will get the most opportunity to insult Arjuna a lot would be Karna, because he has been subject to a lot of insult from the Pandavas. Even Draupadi has insulted Karna on several occasions. She has called him a Sutaputra, right? So insulted very often. Karna's opportunity this time to insult Arjuna will be very ripe. That's what Krishna says. So if Arjuna runs away, then Karna will say that Arjuna just was serving the army, and he saw Karna, and Karna stared at him, and Arjuna feared Karna's reactions, and that's why he ran away. So, Krishna says that until this moment, Arjuna, you have built a solid reputation for yourself. And would you like it if your well-meaning intentions are misconstrued, and if your reputation is tarnished? Would you like that? You would fall down in the eyes of the Kauravas, and this, he says, is worse than death. This is a summary of verse 35. I'd like ma'am to recite verse
Sure.
36. Yeah.
आवाच्यवादांश्च स बहुन् वदिष्यन्ति तवाहितः निन्दन्तस्तव सामर्थ्यं ततो दुःखं तरं नु किम्.
Thank you. So in the essence of verse 36 is that Krishna says that the Kauravas will ridicule Arjuna's ability. Arjuna is a very skilled archer, and they will utter many unmentionable words. So he says, Arjuna, what can be more painful than being ridiculed for something that you're so good at, right? So this of course is Krishna's strategy to prick Arjuna's ego, to further provoke him to abandon his fear and fight the war. So by strategically, by strategically targeting Arjuna's honor to, abandon his fear and fight the war, Krishna is saying that Kauravas are at an advantage right now at this moment, because when you and the Pandavas were in the forest for 13 years, Duryodhana had a very strong hold over the kingdom. He had a very strong hold over the people. So this gives them a huge advantage to spread all kinds of rumors about you. And they will obviously criticize your proficiency, which you're most good at. So Krishna says, Arjuna, this is extremely painful. You need to really abandon your fear and get up and fight the war. So in order to further push Arjuna to take up his responsibility, Krishna draws parallels with Ramayana. He says that Dashratha refused to give a boon to Kaikeyi because he was ready to sacrifice everything except Lord Rama, right? So no matter what Kaikeyi said, Dashratha was not willing to budge. But the one thing that she said was that, Dashratha, you have to uphold your family's honor. You have to uphold the promise, Vakya Paripalanam. You have to uphold your word. So this struck a chord with Dashratha, and what he did was that he let go of Lord Rama at this very instance. So Krishna says in this context that even the word apamana was enough for Dashratha to relent. So a similar story is when Kamsa puts his sword aside. When an Ashariravani comes in and says and tells Kamsa that Devaki and Vasudeva's 8th child will kill him. And then Vasudeva strikes back. He says, Kamsa, that your family's name and fame will go away, and history will remember you as the killer of your own sister and her husband out of fear of being killed by a child. So don't you think that is disgraceful? So this word apamana again will make Kamsa put his sword aside, and he will not kill his sister and her husband in that instance. So manam, or self-respect, is very important for every human being. Ego especially is very important for a Kshatriya, and Krishna is using this trait, the trait of protecting one's ego, to let go of the fear, else Arjuna will have to face the consequences of apamana. So in both these verses, we might think that, if Krishna is he emotionally manipulating Arjuna in any way? So this is food for thought. However, in history, we can see that, Adolf Hitler, okay, he was known as one of the most brutal persons on the planet. He used his emotional tactics, emotional control over people to cleanse an entire ethnic group. So the crux of this is that if we have an emotional attachment over someone, if we are emotionally bonded over someone, we need to use that in the right ways. We need to guide them in the right direction. So Krishna says in previous verses that an individual should be sane in both pleasure and pain. However, in this verse, he says that if you don't fight the battle, you will invite sin to befall on you. So therefore, um, since Arjuna is somebody who's full of honor and pride, Krishna is using that psychology to tell him that you need to go after what you really want. And says that his pride will be lost if he is withdrawing from the battle. So the essence of both these verses is that if we have an emotional hold over someone, we need to not take advantage of that, but instead guide them towards righteousness and towards a better future. So with this, I conclude my explanation of verses 35 and 36. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Aditi. Praveen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Praveen. Yeah. 37. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So I'll start with reciting the words. Hato va prapyasi swargam jitva va bhokshase mahim tasmat uttista kaunteya yuddhaya kritanishchayah. So what we are actually seeing is from verse 31 onwards till 38. So Bhagwan is explaining Arjuna from various perspectives. So he used dharma from 31 to 33 words, where he explained various dharma related arguments in terms of what is exactly dharma is saying, why he should actually go and continue the war, right? And from 34 words onwards, he is now using the logic to actually explain, right? I mean, everybody requires a different kind of explanations in order to actually get to understand. So what you heard till 34, from 34 onwards, it is more of a logic that he is actually explaining from various perspectives. And entire from 31st words till 38 words, this is called as like a more talking about Swadharma, and it is actually labeled as Swadharma Upanishad as well. So some call that way. I think Nidan is anyway going to talk about Swadharma in detail later, right? So in the logic as well, if you see the way he is actually explaining, he pretty much first 34 and the verses that you would have actually gone through it, first he explained what exactly is going to affect. So basically he's talking about negative part of it, right? I mean, if he doesn't do it, what exactly are the things which are going to actually happen, and how exactly it is going to affect, right? I mean, he's talking about his fame would be affected, and various people will actually talk in different ways, those kind of arguments. In this particular verse, he's talking about what is good about it, right? So first thing, if you see the verse, the first thing, hato va prapyasi swargam. So previously there was actually a doubt that Arjuna has got in his mind. If you see first chapter, the way that he actually explains, he actually talks about whether we are going to win or lose, we don't know types. So he is kind of giving the answer to that kind of a doubt here, and also telling how exactly this is right, irrespective of whatever is the result of the war. So if Sahatova Prapyasi Swargam, let's say if he loses and if he dies, right? Being a Kshatriya, he is doing his Swadharma, so as he would actually get a chance to actually go to Swarga. So for every Kshatriya, that is one of the ultimate things that they would want to achieve, that they would want to actually die in a war, and that is exactly what would actually lead to their particular ultimate Swargam here, right? Whether, even if you take whether he would literally mean whether reach Swargam or not, even if you see from psychology angle, right, anybody who is actually doing the job which they like, if they get to do whatever that they are actually doing and achieve what they would want to do, it is the kind of fulfillment that they would actually get, which is equivalent to reaching to Swarga, right? That is exactly what that first statement really means. The second part of it, let's say, even if he wins and not really dies in the war, jitva va bhokshase mahim. So he would actually get to rule the land, whatever that they would actually win. He would get to actually do it in a right manner, right? I mean, he would actually get a chance to give all the dharma, and you can actually uphold that particular dharma for the for the people there. So it is like win-win situation. Whether he lose, he will get to go to Swarga. If he loses, if he loses, he will get to go to Swarga. If he wins, he would actually get to rule the people and uphold the dharma, right? So that is why tasmad. So immediately uttista kaunteya, get up. So if you see from end of the first chapter, Arjuna is on his chariot lying down. He actually left his arrows. So he is still actually in a state where he is just not really ready for the war. So he's saying, get up, Kaunteya. You need to actually wage a war now, right? That is why first he is saying get up, and he is saying what he needs to get up. He should not get up and run. He needs to actually go and wage the war. Say yuddhaya krita nischaya. Yuddhaya. So he needs to actually come to the war with will. Krita nischaya. He needs to actually have that particular will to wage that particular war. So that is exactly what he is saying here, right? So even if you lose, you are not going to actually be at a loss. If you win, you are not going to actually, you are going to get to rule. So that is why get up and do this particular job. So this is how he is actually putting up a logic, saying that you have a win-win situation. You're not going to lose anything. If you're actually, you will, neither way, you just doing the war is the best thing that could actually happen. Right. So that is how he is actually taking to the next verse, where he is going to talk about how exactly he needs to deal with the emotional aspects of Swadharma, win or loss, whatever it is. I think that would actually go through the next verse. So that is exactly, I mean, uh, that's what is the meaning of this verse. Thank you.
Thank you, Praveen.
Thank you.
And sorry for pushing you so much.
No.
Chasing you so much, actually. Literally, I had to get you from France to, Swadharma.
Very nice presentation. In fact, both Aditi and Praveen has done a wonderful job. Very crisp, to the point, and saying what the verses are there. Excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oops. Asha, if you can recite it for me as well.
Sure. Sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labhau jaya jayau tato yuddhaya yujyasva naivam papam avapsyasi.
Okay, thank you. Sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labhau jaya jaya. This word in itself is important. What we have to see over here is same kritva. So as the word says it, this verse is important from two aspects. One, it is just the start of Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is probably one of the most important concepts which has been introduced in Bhagwat Gita by Shri Krishna. And if you see what they're trying to, he is talking about having an equipoise mind. Same kritva means a mind which is It will equipoise. Equipoise when? Whether in sukha dukhe, whether you are happy or you are sad. Labha labha, whether you are losing money or you're losing or you're gaining. Jaya jaya, whether you are winning or whether you are losing. So if you see, he's talking about polarities here. He's saying that in polarities, you should basically be samekritva. You should basically be equipoise. Point is it possible? Is it possible to remain equipoise, to treat both happiness and sadness from the same point of view? Difficult, isn't it? If you see how are we conditioned, it's genetics. We basically go towards things which makes us happy, and we move away from things which makes us unhappy. As simple as that. Raga and Dvesha, isn't it? We are all designed a certain way. We immediately get attracted to things which makes us feel happy. What makes us feel happy? Anything that makes us feel secure, expansion, accepted, it makes us feel happy. We automatically get driven towards it. And anything that makes us unsafe, anything that constrains us, anything that rejects us, we move away from there. And this is our normal psyche. This is what we have seen. Now Shri Krishna is trying to tell us that you need to be equipoise, whether it is happiness or sadness, whether you are winning, whether you are losing, whether you are gaining or you are not gaining. The first question that one has to ask is how? It's not natural, isn't it? Does it make sense? How do we do it is the very important point. But before we get into how, we need to understand why. Why do we need to do this? So what is emotional maturity all about? What is EQ all about? EQ is my ability to use the data in the right possible manner, irrespective of what is the condition of my mind. I am basically very emotionally stable. Imagine a situation where a person is having an extremely high IQ, very intelligent person. But if he goes through an emotional crisis, do you think the intelligence can be used? It cannot be used. The intelligence can be used only when you are stable enough to use it. And stability comes from the emotional maturity. So having a stable mind is so important to use your intelligence. Point number one. Point number two, the most important is, as Swami Paramatmananda ji says, that if you have to sharpen the knife, you have to rub it against what? A stone. Right? You can't rub it against a sponge to sharpen the knife. So if at all there is growth, there has to be pain. The growth happens only when we go through tremendous amount of pain. Just like the knife will get sharpened when it is vigorously rubbed against a stone. So the point here to understand is that if we are going through pain, at that point of time, we will not have the emotional maturity to understand that where we went wrong or what is this situation asking me to learn. Most of the time, at that point of time, we tend to blame others. We kind of get into guilt, self-pity, and a whole lot of emotion takes over. And the learning from the entire painful experiences gets lost, as a result of which we get into another painful situation. So if we need to avoid other painful situation, we need to learn what this situation is telling us. And to learn when you are going through real crisis, there has to be certain level of stability of your mind. So having a stable mind, one, to use your intelligence, and two, to learn from your painful moments and to grow, we need this. The question is how? How do we have a stable mind irrespective of whatever situations we are going through? And that is what the crux of following verses will follow in terms of Karma Yoga, where there'll be a lot of discussions which will happen in terms of Ishwararpana, Prasad Buddhi, what sort of an attitude we need to build, behind our actions. And that is something that I'm going to specifically take up in the next session, where we are going to get an overview of Karma Yoga before we get into the following verses. But for this verse, this is good enough. That there is a need for us to remain equipoised, and only then we can use our intelligence, and two, we can manage difficult situations and learn from it. And the second important point over here, Shri Krishna is also trying to say that he's not giving Arjuna an advice how to win. If you talk about it, he's talking about labha avlabha, gain and loss. That means you will go through situations in your life where you will gain and where will you lose. He's also saying jaya ajaya, that you will go through defeat, you will go through victory. So Shri Krishna is not trying to tell Arjuna the tricks to always be victorious, to always gain. Instead, he is trying to tell Arjuna, hey, you will go through these phases of gain and loss, victory and defeat. And in that moment, how do you keep samatvan? How do you keep sama? How do you keep your mind equipoised? And that is most important. And with that mindset, go all out, do your duty, do your responsibility, and in the process, you will never incur sin. Anyway, you will never incur sin as far as this yuddha is concerned, because this is dharma yuddha. What is dharma yuddha? Dharma yuddha is where not fighting will create a lot more problems, a lot more issues than fighting, because any kind of fight or any kind of war is not good. But sometimes you have to engage in war to prevent the things which can actually go worse as we go around. So therefore, this has been categorized as dharma yuddha. And when you participate yourself in the dharma yuddha with an equipoised mind, beyond defeat, beyond victory, beyond gain, beyond loss, you will never incur sin. So this is what the essence of this verse is. Is it okay with everyone? Right? Now we are getting into, I'm not taking up the next verse because our next verse itself is a pretty big verse. Instead, we will not go, now we will get into dharma, so dharma and those other discussions. If you're all okay with it, then we move on to the next piece. Any questions? Okay, just give me a moment. Fine. So let us start with this. I'll just put the presentation here so that we will have some reference point. So let's go to the basic. Then we started our Bhagwat Gita session. We were talking about Satya, Rita, and Dharma. Because we need to understand this before we understand Swadharma. First, we have to understand Dharma. And before we understand Dharma, we need to understand Rita. And before we understand Rita, we need to understand Satya. And this was the first introductory class that we did in Bhagwat Gita. So just getting back to the basics. What is Satya? Satya is not necessarily meaning that we are going to speak the truth. Satya basically is the fundamental reason out of which the entire universe emerged. It is beyond something and nothing. So Satya is that existence which manifested this unmanifested reality. Right? That is Satya, and that is what in Advaita or in Upanishads they talk about Brahman. Brahman is the Sat. You are the Sat. You are the substratum on which the universe emerges, sustains, and dissolves. So for example, when we are talking about water, waves, bubbles, froth, what is Satya? The Satya over there is water, because water expresses itself as waves, bubble, froth, anything, right? That's the fundamental particle, that's the fundamental thing from which the reality manifests itself. So that is Satya. Now, the second point is Rita. What is Rita? So something has manifested from Satya. So that manifestation will have an order. There is a specific order. There is an order in the universe. You can call it Ishwara's intelligent order. There is a way things are happening. That is your Rita. And what is Dharma? Dharma is basically the actions that is aligned to the universal order, so that we don't try and go against the universal order. This is a high level concept. Now let us understand in our day-to-day lives to kind of make sense of what we are trying to understand here. All right. How do we understand Rita and Dharma? So let's take example of your body. All right. We all have a body. Now, do you all believe that the body has a natural order? Yes. The body is in harmony. Do you all believe that?
Yes.
Right. In science, they call it homeostasis, that there is a specific functioning of the body that is happening, right? The blood is flowing around, the energy system is working, the heart is pumping, the brain is understanding. So there is a system that is following. Are you controlling that system?
No.
The system is happening by itself. So there is a Rita of your body. There is a order in your body. Now let me ask you a question. When you have, say, a non-coffee drinker, suppose a non-coffee drinker decides to have a very strong coffee early in the morning, empty stomach, what will happen?
The system rejects it.
Sorry, system rejects it. So he will have acidity. Why does a person have acidity? Because the order is, the rhythm of the gut has been changed. It has got disrupted, correct? So whenever you basically disrupt the natural order or the Rita of your body, it will show up. Now to make that fine, what do you do? Suppose if you're having an acidity, what do you do? Simple.
You take something to
You
reduce
take
it.
something, yeah, you take something alkaline or you take an antacid, right? When you take the antacid, what does it do? It restores the natural order of your body, right? So why it is said that in the morning, first thing in the morning, you should keep your body, you should have something which is highly alkaline, because it kind of nourishes, it kind of aligns with the natural order of the body. Now, let us understand Rita, Dharma, and Adharma in this context. So you have understood the Rita. Now, having a coffee, empty stomach, a very hard coffee, empty stomach, it is Dharma or Adharma?
Other.
Sorry?
Other.
Why it is Adharma?
Because it's not your way of doing things.
Because it disrupts the natural
Status
Order.
quo.
order. And then having an antacid or an alkaline thing to kind of restore, what is that? That is called
Dharma.
Dharma. So what is Dharma then? What is Dharma? Just let's use our common sense to understand this complicated topic. What is Dharma?
Which lets you
Bring
follow
back
the order.
Sorry, the action that aligns you with the natural order, right? You understood this? That any action that aligns with the natural order can be considered as Dharma. Any action that disrupts the natural order can be called as
Other.
Adharma. It is not about good and evil here. Let me be very clear, because in Sanatana Dharma, they don't talk about good and evil. For some people, having a coffee, empty stomach in the morning does not disrupt the system. Correct? Correct? So it is very specific to you that what action of yours will disrupt the rhythm of your body, because the body has a rhythm and an action will affect. Now, so what you told me right now, that any action that helps you restore the natural order of your body is called dharma. So now give me few examples of dharmic actions when it comes to your body.
Exercising, eating healthy,
Sleeping on time.
Eating on time, exercising,
Yoga, meditation.
yoga, meditation. Beautiful. So from the perspective of your body, right, these are dharma. Having a right food, exercising, sleeping well, meditation, pranayama, because it restores the natural rhythm of the body. So this is dharma. Now, when it comes to dharma, let's take only one component of dharma, which is exercise. Am I clear to everyone? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Are we able to make sense, right?
Yeah.
Now, let us take example of exercise. Let's take only one aspect of exercise. Now, the exercise can be of multiple forms.
Yes.
It could be yoga, it could be hitting the gym, it could be sports, it could be matching, walking, or people can mix and match it. Now, if you see, would you enjoy each and every part, or you will enjoy few of them?
Few of them.
Few of them. Some may want to walk and restore your homeostasis of your body. Some may want to play sports. Some may want to go to gym. Some may want to do yoga. Some may mix and match. So your individual circumstances, your individual exposure will decide which of these activities will be used. So that individual activity is called, your individual activity is called what?
Swadharma.
Swadharma. So for me, maybe hitting a gym might be fine. Maybe for Anand, going to yoga might be fine. So Anand Swadharma is yoga. Vidhan's Swadharma is gym.
Gym.
But both but for Vidhan and Anand, what is the dharma? Dharma is to take care of the body through exercise. And there is more or less both the bodies are actually functioning in the similar manner. So if you see, there is a rita, there is a natural order. To basically ensure that the natural order does not get disrupted, you have dharma. Those actions are called dharma, and everybody will have their own approach towards dharma, basis their individual aspiration, their mental construct, their birth, their purva sanskaras, so many things that gets created. So that is called swadharma, which is aligned to the overall dharma, and that dharma is aligned to rita. Do you all understand with respect to body now?
Yeah.
Now, let us go and see it from the perspective of the world, the universe, the cosmos. So there is the underlying reality, which is Satya, the fundamental principle, which we have discussed very briefly in Bhagwat Gita when he talks about our essential nature, which is Atman. So what is Satya? Atman is the Sat. If you remember, they have spoken about Sat and Asat in one of those verses, right? So the underlying principle is Satya. Now from that Sat, from Atman, there is an universe that has emerged which has a order, right? So if I were to ask you universal Rita, what are the universal cosmic order? Can you talk about some cosmic order? Shri Krishna also himself has mentioned about it in Bhagwat Gita. And we have done those verses. I'm talking only about verses which we have done so far, nothing new. One of the aspect of Rita is the cycle of birth and death.
Yeah.
Birth and death.
Right? Then cycle of unmanifest to manifest to unmanifest. Do you see this?
Yeah.
So how the universe is in order, there is everything is in, even the time is cyclical. There is a day, there is a night.
Right.
The universe goes into unmanifest state. It manifests itself. It goes into unmanifest state. That's your natural order. Another aspect of your natural order is what? Law of karma. That every action that you take will have an outcome. That is also a natural order. Then the movement of planets, planetary motions. It is also having a natural order. Then the laws of physics, like gravity, thermodynamics. These are all the natural order. So there is a seen natural order and there is an unseen natural order. Science basically looks into the seen natural order. However, Upanishads looks into the both seen and the unseen. Say, for example, law of karma is an unseen natural order. The manifestation, unmanifestation to manifestation to back to unmanifestation is the unseen order. So do you see that? So there is a Rita in the universe. Now, what is dharma? Dharma is a set of actions or set of principles that you can follow to align with the universal cosmic order or the Rita. Is it okay? Am I going too fast, too slow? Does it make sense?
Yep.
All right. So what is that dharma? What are these things that, and I am basically only restricting to what we have learned so far. I'm not going beyond it so that we don't get confused. All right. So what is it, our understanding so far? How do I align myself to the cosmic order? So what has Sri Krishna told Arjuna? The first thing he is told is, please understand your essential nature as Atma. Understanding your essential nature as Atma is dharma, because you are aligning yourself to Satya, to Satyam. So he clearly have told, if you see, there were around 14 to 15 verses where they were trying to explain that I am not the body will perish, but I am something more than that body. Shri Krishna also talks about the fact that there is something more subtler than the body which moves from one body to another, which he's talking about reincarnation. And he's also talking about my essential nature, which is Atman, which is Nitya, which is Anashina, which is Shashvata, which is Achala, which is Sarvagatha. So he's spoken about so many ways to explain and understand our essential nature. So the first aspect of dharma, I'm talking about the universal framework, the bigger framework is to understand and identify your essential nature as Atma. So what is it that we do to understand my essential nature as Atma? Right? And if you think about it, from my own personal experience, I can say when you follow, or any one of us follow mindfulness, we are basically becoming an observer. And the more we become an observer, the more we are connecting with our essential nature, which is dharma. If we are meditating either on our own essential nature, or through meditation, which we are experiencing the oneness, that is dharma. So anything that brings you closer to your essential nature can be construed as dharma. I'm just talking about what we have learned so far. That's the first part. The second part, he's also spoken a lot about the tiksha or sama. Right now we have spoken about samatva, right? What does it mean? It means my ability to endure life circumstances through proper understanding, not by suppression. So if we are doing anything, if we are practicing on that manner where we are learning how to endure life circumstances, good or bad, profit or loss, whether we are winning or we are losing, through samatvam and building titikshva, that is also a part of dharma. So anything that you do which helps you in this will become dharma. And Shri Krishna has said so many words around it. If you want, we can collate that and send it across in the group so that we get a proper understanding. And the third thing, he has also spoken to Arjuna saying that understand your swadharma and do your bit to establish dharma. So even knowing your swadharma is also dharma. Knowing your swadharma, that what is the reason of my existence, why I am here for, what am I supposed to do, that is also a part of dharma. So if you look at this chart again, that there is a natural order. In order to align to Rita, we need to perform dharma. And what is dharma? Who tells us what is dharma? I mean, someone has to tell us, right? One, of course, through our own observation to understand what is working, what is not working. At the same time, Sri Krishna is clearly calling out, if you want to move on a dharmic path, claim yourself as an Atma, build certain amount of endurance, and basically go and do your duties, go and do your swadharma, identify your swadharma. These are the three things which we have spoken so far on a very holistic manner. Does it make sense? Right? Okay. Now there are so many, when you're looking at dharma, there are two aspects about dharma. One is samanya dharma, which is basically a much bigger overlying principle. And another was a Vishesha Dharma or Swadharma, which is quite, I mean, there are certain nuances, but more or less it's quite same. So let's understand what is Samanya Dharma, something that everybody can or should do. Now, that is not a part I have taken directly from Bhagwat Gita, but the source basically is a lot of other scriptures, but we'll just see to try and make a sense out of what exactly it means. What is Samanya Dharma? Samanya Dharma is basically in general, the universal duties or the ethical principles, which is applicable to almost all individuals, irrespective of their personal circumstances, right? So they have laid out certain things that we should do to align ourselves to the Rita. So one could be non-violence or ahimsa, from thought, word, and deed. Then satya, then basically non-stealing. Saucha, basically cleanliness, both inside and outside. Then daya, which we are talking about, compassion. Then straightforwardness or honesty. I mean, having certain amount of integrity. I mean, it may sound like a moral science class right now, but please bear with me, because these are the things which has been mentioned. Okay, Shama. And I'm telling you so that we get a slightly bigger perspective. When we go through Bhagavad Gita, we know exactly what we are picking. One is Shama, which is basically forgiveness. Then it is Dhamma, which is self-control, having certain amount of restraint. Then it is Dhriti, which is basically my ability to stay committed to a specific work. If I have taken a work, I will not dwindle in between, I'll remain focused and complete it. Then charity, which is Dana. Charity, which cannot necessarily only mean by in terms of money, but also in terms of support, in terms of knowledge, emotional care, so on and so forth. Then non-possessiveness, that we tend to get attached to things and want it at any cost. So building a certain level of detachment. Then moderation in mitahara, which is moderation in eating. Then tapas, certain amount of austerity that we do to bring some amount of mental focus. And then having faith, shraddha, and absence of envy. So these are some of the samanya dharmas which are basically mentioned in dharma shastras like Manusmriti, Yajnavalkya Smriti, in Mahabharata, in some yoga sutras, and so on and so forth. So as per some of them, if we basically do these practices, we are somewhere aligning ourselves to the Rita, to the cosmic order, right? Now, is that all what we have said is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita or not is something that we will see as we go along. But what we have seen in till chapter 2, these are the things which has very clearly come up. Or maybe if you want to restrict yourself to here, is good enough. Now, what may also happen is that where does Dharma Sankata come into picture? Dharma Sankata come into picture where, say for example, Arjuna was trying to go ahead with ahimsa. He's saying, I'm not going to kill, out of daya, out of compassion. And I'm ready to do kshama, I'm ready to forgive. Do you see this? So these are the overarching principle. So Arjuna is following dharma.
Yeah,
Shri Krishna is asking not to do so.
because his
Because-
Swadharma is different.
Exactly. Because his Swadharma is different. So whenever you are basically looking at dharma, you have to see it from the perspective of your Swadharma. What is my duty? So it's like this, that if there's a cancer which is spreading in the body, taking out the cancer cell is basically still killing some cells, isn't it? Then why don't we call it adharma? Why do we call it dharma? Because it is disturbing the rita of your body somewhere. So do you see the complexity of this entire thing? So it is not very straightforward. You understand? It's not very straightforward, because there will be times where you may feel, hey, these are good things to know. These are good things to do, but it's not making sense. So it has to be always seen from a specific perspective. Now, how do you figure that out? How do you figure this out? How do you understand what is your Swadharma? Because understanding your Swadharma is very important.
Is it the intent with which we do our work? Like, for example, I was recently listening to something, I think it was in our class or outside. A doctor might, cut open a person's stomach. I think it was in our class, I'm not sure. A doctor might cut open a person's stomach to save their life. Another person also might cut open a stomach with the intent of killing that person. Another person may just even think about, putting the chaku with the intent, with the knife. So it's the intent that matters, and that's what is Swadharma. What you intend while doing is what you carry, and that is your,
Perfect.
is that right? Is that right? I don't know.
So no, that is definitely a part of Karma Yoga, that what is the intention behind your action, right? So for example, it can be very confusing, because for Arjuna, the intention may be looking like a non-violence or a compassion, but the fact is that it was more to do with attachment to his kith and kins. So you see, the mind will start playing games.
Yeah.
So one can always argue that it is a part of Samanya Dharma. Ahimsa is a part of Samanya Dharma. Daya is a part of Samanya Dharma. So why should I fight? I'm ready to do Chama and forgive. But it is coming from a space of attachment. Right? So this is where things are going to become complex. So I'm going to stop here because we don't have too much of time, and I'm just going to open it for a discussion, and I'm going to take this in the next session. Tell me, how do you identify your Swadharma? We will have another 5 minutes to discuss.
I think where we are coming from is what we have to question. I mean, I think a lot of our confusion starts when like two dharmas are clashing. I punish my child, but what is my dharma? That I should be loving, I should be taking care of them, being sweet to them, but I punish. So it is going against it. But what is my intention? Where am I coming from? So disciplining the child, that is the dharma. That is, so I do what I do is right, though I am punishing. So what is my intention behind, taking that action, or is it aligning to the truth, Rita, the order? So then, if those two are matching, then that is the Swadharma. If I am punishing my child just because I am angry, or I am venting my anger, that is not the right thing. I mean, if those things,
Yeah.
That's what I understand.
Yeah, one aspect which I wanted to actually add here, right? Obviously, the intention is the one which governs what exactly is the activity that you are doing. Let's say your intention of punishing is to actually, make your child right. What is the action that you are doing is the main intention which is governing. But here, in the context of Swadharma, it is little different. So, what it means here is, let's say if I am a Kshatriya, or let's say if I'm a police in the current context, I can go and punish people, right? If there is a thief, I can go and beat him, catch him, right, and put him in jail. So that as a police, I'm actually supposed to do that. But let's say if I'm a normal human being, I see a thief who is actually doing the stuff. I can actually go and hand it over to police, but I am not supposed to beat. So my swadharma is not about beating that. So here it is little, yes, what you said is the intention context is still applying here, but the thing is, even though my intention is to actually get hold of thief, I am not supposed to beat. My swadharma there is not uh, allowing me to do. So as Vidhan explained, if you classify the whole dharma, there is samanya dharma and there is a vishesha dharma. And in Vishesha Dharma, there are further classifications where you can say that there is a Desha Dharma. As a being a person who is there in land, there are certain things that we would have to actually do for the purpose of the nation. As a duty in which we are actually working, let's say if I'm actually working in a particular company, so as part of company I'm going to actually do certain activities, right? Similarly, as a parent you are supposed to do certain activities. All Vishesha Dharma, if you bucketize, that would come under the practices which are specialized for you. So that Vishesha Dharma which is specialized in your context is what is Swadharma. And obviously, any activity that you do, intention backs it up. So it is not really the action, it is the intention which actually backs it up. But the classification is more about the dharma which falls into your context. And there are various types of dharma, as I said, which is like it could be ashrama dharma, in which ashrama you are in. If you are an elder, or if you are in a gruhastha ashrama, there is a different set of things. If you are a brahmacharya ashrama, there is a different set of rules that are actually applicable to you. Similarly, if you there is actually apad dharma. If you are in adversity, there is a different set of rules that would actually apply. All contextual things you could actually bucketize, which is as Vishesha Dharma, or you can even call it as Swadharma there. That's what I understand as far as Swadharma is concerned.
And I'll add one thing here, and there could be contradictions as well, right? As we are talking about, say, let's say some swadharma related to the company you are working in, right? Now you have whistleblowers, who actually go against, some things that are happening in the company, against some code of ethics or whatever, right? And they bring it to the public thing. So what is happening is there's a contradiction. You still have your loyalty to the company, but then you also have to kind of bring certain injustices to light, and then it kind of creates that is higher than this. So there'll be a hierarchy there also, saying what's more important, right? So even Hitler, right, there are so many soldiers who followed him blindly. They were technically doing their duty, right, by doing whatever he had ordered, but were they doing the right thing? Right, so then you have, I think, layers which come in, and there is where you have to decide which one is more important than the other.
Very true. Coming back to Mahabharata, the same issue Karna had. He was following Duryodhana, and he was justifying it as his, that he was fighting for the right cause.
So I think there will always be the two side of that one perspective, that, the situation that we are in, the duality comes in the picture. So it's tough to kind of decide that what is exactly the dharma.
Perfect. In fact,
The role plays, the
Yeah.
role play takes precedence many times.
Yeah. So that is where all these scriptures would actually provide the way for us to take the decision, because every context is different. It is very personalized.
Yeah, and
So
it's
if
a
you
pecking
take,
order, I guess.
yeah, and if you take anything out of the context, it is entirely a different thing which might actually become right. So as a person, unless and until we are fully equipped, with all the righteous things and the core aspects of it, the very core of what we are and what is the purpose, what is the dharma, and
Perfect.
all the philosophical reasoning, it is very difficult to actually point out that this is what is the right and this is what is wrong. And the entire purpose of we actually doing all this Svadhyaya is actually take to that particular case where we are able to take the right decision in the right moment, because there is nobody else who could actually take that particular decision. It is you who would actually understand the context better, right?
Thank you so much, Praveen. It's beautiful, and we're going to close it over here right now. But few things which came out very clear. One, when we are deciding about dharma, we cannot decide for anyone else. We have to decide it for ourselves. Who is right, who is wrong? It is very contextual based, right? Now we have to decide for ourselves. And how do I decide for ourselves? As Praveen rightly mentioned, are we capable enough of deciding ourselves? We will be able to decide ourselves only when we have, or our mirrors are clean. That's what Uma was also talking to me that day, that your mirror should be clean. Your mind should be stable. There should be certain amount of samatvam. There should be certain amount of equipoise. You should be able to take multiple perspective before you engage in an action. So you have to take a decision what is your swadharma, what is dharma, and that is possible to take either by making mistakes and learning from it, but that also requires a certain amount of stable mind. And therefore, you will see in Bhagwat Gita, Shri Krishna is always and always and always talking about samatvam, your ability to stay equipoised. And how do we do it? We will talk about in Karma Yoga. We will talk about as we go along. Next week, when we are going to meet, we are going to again have this kind of a discussion so that we get the context right and we take our studies further from here. All right, thank you so much. And Asha, would you just want to do the prayers?
Sure. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.